Right, you should be live now, Chair. I will just double check. Yes, you're live on YouTube now, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this evening, and let's hope the audit meeting isn't as miserable as the weather today, but we'll get through it quickly and efficiently this evening. So we'll kick off with item 1, which is substitutes nominated for this meeting and apologies for absence. I don't think we've received any, have we, Janet?
This afternoon we've received an apology from Councillor Prashad, Chair.
But no substitute, is that right?
No substitute, no.
No problem, okay. Item number 2, this is just a reminder to members of the need to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or other interests that they might have in relation to the items included on the agenda this evening, and you can raise those now or when they crop up, if they crop up throughout the meeting. Item number 3, admission of the public. It's not recommended that the public be excluded from the meeting for consideration of the items of the business this evening. Lisa, is that correct? We don't have any exempt items in the end, right? Fab. Okay, thank you. Item number 4, minutes of the audit committee meeting held on the 3rd of October 2022 to be agreed as a correct record and signed by the chair. Do I have a proposer for those minutes? Councillor Stephen Lee, thank you. Anybody willing to second those? Thank you, Councillor Baker. Thank you. Okay, item number 5, appointment of deputy chair. Lisa, do we have any nominations?
No nominations have been made to me. It's usually members who nominate and agree who should be the deputy chair. Okay.
Does anybody want to do it, I suppose, is the question. It was Councillor Bellinger before he came off the panel, but I'm quite happy for it to be anybody who's willing and ready. It don't involve any work, if that makes anybody feel any better. I'm happy to take the burden of all that.
I mean, I don't mind if I was put, maybe either myself or Stephen might be suitable if people have been on the committee for a little while, but I'm not particularly.
I think
if no one else wants to do it, I don't mind stepping in, but I'm not.
I don't think I can be, James, because of the we already have a member of our party as chair.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I don't mind. Put myself forward then.
We're being name only, James. I promise I will do all the work.
Well, you're very diligent at always turning up to meetings, councillor. So
I promise to only call upon you if absolutely necessary. Yeah. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, in which case I'm happy to do it on that. Yeah.
Okay. Can anybody propose and second Councillor Baker in that regard? Thank you, Councillor Baker. Have you proposed? Councillor Kavanagh, thank you. All in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried. Okay, item number 6, audit committee terms of reference. No, is Ian Hughes here? Is he doing a oral report?
He is meant to be here, Chair. I don't know if you want to push it further back in the thing, and I'll send an email out in the background.
Okay, yeah, we'll move on to item 7 and kick that back to the end of the meeting, and hopefully he can join us at some point. Okay, item number 7 in that case, internal audit member selected reports. So we have Lisa to lead on this, and we have the purchasing cards and Salter Hebble Primary School.
That's right, thank you, Chair. Lachlan McKinnon, the audit manager, usually presents the member selected reports, but he's actually got trouble connecting this evening, so I'll present them. We agreed at the previous meeting that there wasn't a need for officers to attend for these 2 items, given the progress that had been made thus far. Pleasing to report that since the last meeting, we've issued a further follow-up, and actually all the recommendations have now been completed, and the opinion improve for both of them. They're attached, as usual, to the covering report, the more detailed executive summaries, which detailed the findings from the reports, the risks and the recommendations and action plan. If members have any further questions on these, I'm happy to take them. Here is Lachlan now. But happy to take any questions that members have on the items.
Thank you, Lisa. Lachlan, just in time for question time on your item. Welcome.
You're
okay. Okay, yeah, I'm really pleased to see that the recommendations on both of the reports have been fully implemented when you came to review it in November, Lisa. So that's really pleasing to see. But I'll open it up to questions. Martin Townsend, you first.
Thanks, Chair. Well, obviously, like you, I was pleased to see everything had been completed. It's always good to see that. I suppose I was just slightly suspicious, and maybe I'm being uncharitable, I don't know, but was it the threat of these papers being brought to the audit committee that prompted everybody to resolve all the outstanding issues? I don't know. A bit of a cheeky question, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it could be difficult to say, but some of the recommendations have been around for a while, and I do think sometimes just that prompt that it is going to audit committee does result in action being taken, but it could have happened anyway. You know, they were in line with the dates that they proposed when we last did the follow-up, so they were already on progress. And I've now met the deadlines that they actually set.
Okay, that's fine. I think we'll probably just take it at that. I mean, I suppose it would be worrying if it required the audit committee the threat of the papers for the action to be prompted, I suppose, just for future. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as you're aware, we have agreed that we are going to track all recommendations now up until the point that they've actually been implemented. So I feel as though that is another control that we've got, that we're not going to just go away, and we're going to be constantly following up until they've implemented it. So, and we do actually put in reports that until the recommendation is fully implemented, management need to manage that risk, any residual risks until they've been implemented.
Thanks, Lisa. Councillor Kavanagh.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for all the work. I mean, it looks like Salter Hebble has totally, pulled its socks up in every way. They had a lot of actions to get through, so that's obviously taken a lot of work in terms of monitoring. So thanks for that. My question is actually about process. Do staff involved, are they aware of the identified? You've got your list of potential risks. Are staff aware of that list? Because I'm slightly wary that in some of the potential risks, it could lead to staff feeling a certain way about them. So in terms of the cards, there was something around potential risk is misuse of cards. And I remember from the community protection officers, a potential risk was staff not doing their hours when they're working remotely. And obviously their potential risks, you're not saying that has happened.
No.
But I'm just conscious, our staff who are like on the ground doing these jobs, are they made aware of this list of potential risks, or is that something that just happens internally and staff would need to check up on?
The potential risks are included within the audit report that goes to management. So the staff on the ground per se wouldn't necessarily be aware of the list of the risks, but unless management share that with them and say, these are the potential risks if we don't do this, or if you don't do it, but we don't share it more widely, if that's what you meaning.
Yeah, I just meant it'd be interesting to know if staff who are actually involved in having to either a participant or a recipient of these processes or involved in management, there could potentially be risks around the being aware of the potential risk, in the sense that if you remember a staff and you thought, I've got a card, and actually they've listed potential misuse. I was just interested in the transparency of it all, that's all, in how are people who are actually directly the recipients of the risk management involved in creating that list of the potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody have any further questions or comments? Welcome, Councillor Hay. You haven't missed much, so don't worry. Okay, right, if there's no further questions or comments, I think we're all quite relatively pleased about the report, so thank you, Lisa, and your team for that. We're recommended to note the reports first of all, and to consider whether any further action is required, and I don't think we have any further action required from the committee, so we'll note them, and thank you, Lisa, and we'll move on to item number 8. Okay, progress report on compliance with financial management code. Is Isabel, is this for Isabel? Is she here? Yes, you are here. Hello, Isabel. Welcome to the council.
Hi, Councillor Whittaker. Hi, everybody. I think that Lee's probably going to lead on this report, but just to kind of say hello to everybody. Those of you that haven't met me before, I'm the interim Section 151 officer, so I'll be working with Calderdale for at least the next 6 months, obviously replacing Chris Forrester and helping to deliver sort of the budget over the next few months. I think my overarching probably comment on this is that we've got a slot in the diary next week, myself, Lisa, Jane and Lee, just to finalise a few outstanding items that we've got. And we hope to conclude the sort of the financial management update and make sure all of the outstanding items are done by the time for the next audit. And I'll stop there. And if there's any questions, I think maybe Lee might want to answer them.
Thank you, Isabel. Lee, is there anything further to add first of all before we ask you any questions?
Yeah, I was just going to give a brief summary of the report. Section 4.6 details work we've done over the last 2 months, and it's especially around things like the MTFS, budget setting and financial strategy. We made some good progress there, and we've got some very good evidence to back up our compliance with those important aspects of the code. Like Isabel said, she's a new head of finance, and myself and Lisa will be working with her over the next couple of weeks to make sure that we're fully compliant with all aspects of the code, and we can document that and report back to Audit Committee in the new year, hopefully. So I think that's all I was going to say, unless members have any questions.
Thanks, Lee. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one for Lee, I guess, rather than Isabel. This resignation of the previous incumbent has come at a very difficult time in the audit process, as you know, Lee. And the question is, are we satisfied that we have sufficient resources that are up to speed with everything to enable Isabel to get off to a cracking start and make up for any time that may have been lost as a result of this?
Lee or Isabel, do you want to respond to that?
I think the question might have been to Lee, as in, do we think that we obviously I've not got the experience at the moment. This is my 3rd week, but I am very confident that we'll be able to deliver the budget, the necessary documentation and ideas for delivering the medium-term financial plan reports as they are needed. I'm currently working through some ideas, and I'm meeting Councillor Lee tomorrow, as he knows. There's probably a few bits and pieces that I'm a little short of information on, but I'm confident that we have the resources to deliver what's necessary in the next few months.
Thank you.
Just adding to that, Councillor Lee, I've worked on the budget for a long number of years. I've worked with yourself with the Conservatives budget in the past, so we have good continuity. I have a good team below me as well. So Isabel's bringing a lot of experience, and she between us, working very hard to make sure we set a balanced budget this year, and we have budgets for each of the parties should they wish to present some at Budget Council. So yeah, we're very confident we have the resources, capacity and skills in place to do what the council needs to do.
Thank you, Lee. That's great.
Thank you very much. Martin Townsend.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the report, and it certainly does sound like good progress is being made. I was just wondering, I appreciate this is, if you like, independent scrutiny by the audit committee, but I was just wondering whether, I mean, this is essentially a self-assessment, isn't it, by the finance function? So I was just wondering what, if any, independent review there is of it in terms of the progress mapping against the code by either internal or external audit or any other body.
I think the answer to that is that we do work. It is we're supported by the internal audit function, and ultimately it will be reviewed by the external auditors as part of their value for money exercise. So yeah, there is that amount of scrutiny, and you're quite right. It's a self-assessment, but there will be challenge. And Lisa and I have already had sort of conversations about actually what we've got in that response to the code. So yeah, internal and external audit will be challenging us.
Okay, that's great. I've got a couple of other points, Chair. Shall I carry on, or do you want me to come back?
just bear with me. Lee and Lisa, did you want to come in on this question?
Yes, I just in response and just confirming what Isabel said, internal audit were involved in that initial assessment, and there is an action plan in place based on suggestions from internal audit. Internal audit worked with Nigel Broadbent to put that together, and that's what myself, Isabel, Lee and Jane Hickling in my team will be reviewing in the coming weeks. So we have independently assessed compliance.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Lee, did you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I went along to West Yorkshire Director of Finance, and that's the Director of Finance of all the West Yorkshire councils a few months ago. And we did talk about having a peer review of the financial management code. So each council doing another council within West Yorkshire. So it gives an independent assessment of how, how compliant we are with the code. That should happen in 2023. We don't know yet exactly when or how, but that's in the early planning stages. So that's something which, as soon as I have some further detail, I'll come back to Audit Committee and update you on that.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, Martin, you can continue with the other questions now.
Right. Okay. Well, Lee's just answered one of them, which was about benchmarking progress against other councils. So that's fine. And then the other one was just a couple of minor wording points. In 451, it talks about slow or progress being slow, but I think that's sort of probably not doing justice to the progress in a way, because it does say it's partly delayed by SIPF's own timescales for implementation. So I suppose if it's on track with, albeit SIPFA working at a different timetable, then it's not slow. I mean, it is slow, but it's not the council that's being slow, I suppose. They're actually, I think what's being said is that they're on track to deliver rather than behind the timescale, I suppose. And then I think in 5.1, I think there might be a missing word. It says the FM code does prescribe the financial management processes, and should that be does not prescribe the processes, it's just the principles. So I don't know whether that needs to be corrected in a final version or anything. That was it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Martin. Lee, you were nodding. Is that right? It's meant to have not in there.
Say as Martin suggested. This, yes, that's just an oversight. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Councillor Hay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah. So I'm on 4.5.2. It says improvements will continue to be identified and implemented, e.g. greater monitoring and scrutiny of the council's balance sheet, primarily in relation to the use of reserves. Do you know when that's due to happen? Is that going to happen before the budget setting round?
Yeah, we've already started working with departmental management teams to look at their reserves. We include in the MTFS details of the reserves and how we might use some of them for the next 3 years. But the plan is to do some more work before budget setting, just to make sure we know exactly what reserves we have, what the plans for them are, and how we might utilise them in the future. So yeah, that work is kind of ongoing, but my plan is to do that before the budget setting process, is finalised.
And that'll put us in line with the code then, Lee.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Anybody else got any questions or comments? No? Okay, so the purpose of this report was just to highlight the progress and outstanding actions with regards to the implementation of the code, the Financial Management Code, and our recommendations are to note the progress and to request a further report to be presented to the committee at a later date. So we will we'll see another report of this progress report. Maybe will it be at the next meeting, Lisa, in February? Yeah, okay, fab. So we'll see the further progress made by that date. Thank you all. Okay, item number 9, half-yearly report on Treasury Management to the 30th of September 2022. Isabel and Ollie, I think this is over to you.
Yeah, this one is me again.
Anything to add, Lee?
I'll just give a very quick introduction to it. I think the feature so far this year is increase in interest rates. Everybody's probably as aware as me that the Bank of England have been putting rates up to 3%, the last meeting. Inflation is also going higher. So October's inflation was 11.1% compared to 10.1% in September. Inflation is due out next Wednesday, I think, and the Bank of England MPC meet the day after to set interest rates again. So, there is scope there for interest rates to continue to increase. The report details the borrowings we've taken out this year, so they can be found in section 8.6. Members might want to comment on that. There are 3 appendices at the end. First of all, we've got the list of current investments. The second one is the investments characterised by their investment limits. And the third one is the normal graph, which shows the maturity structure of our borrowings. So it's just open for member comment or questions if you have any.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Anybody got any comments or questions? Councillor Lee? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Lee first. Sorry, I think.
Sorry, I couldn't find the hand button.
I'll take you first.
On point 8.6, I see that we've borrowed some, or we've deposited some money. But no, we borrowed 10 million. I see. So is this not specifically earmarked for anything?
The £10 million we borrowed?
Yeah.
Yes, that's to pay for investment that we have in the capital programme. So that's the part of the capital programme that's funded by prudential borrowing rather than by grant funding. So,
okay.
So that's to keep our finances on a even keel in terms of our cash position.
Okay. So historically, these interest rates have been very low. Presumably, they start before all this this trouble started. They were at something like 1% or just above base rate, which was, I think, 0.75 last time I saw it. So this has gone up by probably 3 percentage points. So I'm just wondering how that will affect the cost of borrowing, say, per £1 million, when taking into account debt repayment and that higher interest rate, just so that we all know what the position is with prudential borrowing going forward. It's no longer the cheap option it always was.
No, I haven't got the exact figures in front of me, but a 1% interest rate on £1 million, you could work on a figure of about £10,000 a year, roughly. Yeah, obviously it's a bit more complicated than that because you've got, as your debt matures and payments are due, obviously, the amount of principal outstanding reduces, so it's not quite as simple as that, but roughly £10,000 for every £1 million that we borrow. And like you say, go back to last year and interest rates were 1.25%, 1.5%, and now the latest interest rates are between 4 and 4.5, depending on which period you look at. But we decided to go in, myself and Chris, and get the rates we set out in the report because it was just at the start of all the problems we're having in the wider economy and, you know, the emergency budget, and these things were starting to put huge upward pressure on interest rates. So hopefully we've got in a relatively good time and got some decent rates, although unfortunately they are a lot higher than previous years. But, you know, that's the market we're in at the moment.
Well done.
Thank you. Councillor Hay.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it was on a similar theme. So yeah, if we're borrowing £10 million at an interest rate of just less than 4% for somewhere around 5 years, I reckon that's £2 million worth of interest that we're going to be paying away. Now, as we've discussed, those rates aren't that bad compared to where we are today. They're certainly the going rate, or maybe just slightly below. But nevertheless, it is a real cost. So does the commitment to pay that interest, does that then play back into decisions about capital investment?
Yeah, when we're looking at capital investment, we work on, at the moment, working on a basis of 4%. So in other words, when we're modelling how much a scheme will cost, we're using 4% as a rough benchmark for what borrowing will be. But, you know, it is quite volatile, and obviously things can change. You know, if we did have a huge spike up in interest rates, we'd have to take account of that in any investment decisions we take in terms of capital. So that's how it feeds back into it.
Okay, yeah. So it's not unreasonable, is it? But would you, that 4% that you use, Lee, is that supposed to be a worst case? Because I guess it isn't nowadays, is it?
It probably isn't a worst case and probably isn't the best case. It's probably somewhere roughly in the middle, what I would expect, you know, all things being equal, and we don't have any sort of major disruptions in the market. Okay.
So unless that does go up and stays significantly higher, 4%'s okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But if rates did settle at sort of longer term rates settled at 5% or more, we'd probably need to review that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Councillor Kavanagh.
Hi. I was just looking at the information that's on the short-term investment, and this is probably me not understanding some basic stuff. But when we, you know, in 9.4, and we there's the line that's used a few times, if we'd taken a less proactive policy and received the maximum bank interest, we would have earned, and then it's obviously a lesser amount. So I just wanted to understand, is that kind of a proactive approach that we're taking as a council, or is that a normal thing that all councils are taking? And is that something that just continues and is risk assessed?
Yeah, it's proactive, but it's an approach that all councils will take. Majority of councils bank with NatWest, and you know, if you leave the money in the current accounts with NatWest, you get a really low rate of interest. I think it's 1% below and 2% above if you go into overdraft. So it's not the best use of money. So that's why we do invest on the markets, and it's what every other council does as well. It's not just us doing that, but it is a proactive way of managing your cash position, making best use of the council's cash resources.
Thank you. And can I just check one more thing? And then the paragraph above 9.3, and it says our investment balance is reduced to 58 million by the end of the year. Is that because of the paying back to, the line says about paying back to central government or waiting to be paid? So is that drop from the 80 odd to the 58 around that kind of payback?
It's mainly due to the way our finances work. So at the start of the year, a lot of grant funding from government comes in, and then we spend it during the year. So cash balances go fairly sharply at the start of the year, then start to dip down as we start to spend the money. And it's similar to council tax as well, because council tax is generally speaking, most people pay over 10 months. So again, it's relatively weighted to the start of the year. So as we get later on into the year, our cash naturally just goes down as you know, as money goes out, because obviously we spend throughout the year. So it's a natural thing, and you know, we have a cash flow system where we track cash flow every single day. So we know on any day what might come in and what should go out. And latest prediction is we'll get down to about 58 million by the end of the year.
Thank you, Lee. Councillor Dacre.
Thank you, Chair. It was just on the point, I think it was Martin Hay asked about, is the cost of borrowing taken into account in a revenue sense? And yes, it is, certainly by Cabinet, when a request for a project that comes forward that requires potential borrowing, that's obviously one of the first considerations, is what is the cost of it going to be as we are trying to pay it back. So yes, it very much is taken into account.
Thank you, Councillor Dacre. Any further questions or comments, members? No, I've got nobody indicating. So this report is for information and no further action is required. Members have made comments about it and about the performance of the Treasury management function. So if there's no further comments, we will move on to item 10. And thank you, Lee and Isabel, for your work on that. Okay, item number 10 is risk management half-year report. Oh, no, yes, no, it is, sorry. Risk management half-year report to the 30th of September 2022. Martin Blower, is this, am I handing over to you for this one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, it's my report. Yeah, report brought to you tonight is the half-year report for 22-23, which itemises the items that have been carried out as risk management in the past 6 months, and obviously talks about the work we're going to carry out in the future. I have nothing further to add to the content of this report at the moment, and I'm happy to take any questions that members may have or provide additional information if you require any. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Any members wishing to make any comments or questions to Martin? You've got off lightly here, Martin. Oh, Councillor Dacre.
Sorry, yes, thank you, Chair. I'm having difficulty because I'm not usually on this device. I just wanted to comment on the reference to cyber risks and the business continuity planning. And just to say that I'd noticed in the public service newsletter that many of us get, that there was a piece there from the Benefits Service who'd been doing their planning for a loss of IT. And when you read it, it was a really positive piece. They'd really put a lot of effort into it and felt that they'd really understood what they now needed to do, and were also confident that they knew how to manage should they lose their IT. And so I just thought that, well, congratulations to those in the council who realised that this was something that this contingency planning needed to be done, and to that team in particular who clearly put a lot into it. And I assume that other teams are also doing the same and learning how to ensure that we can carry on with business as much as possible as usual in the event of a loss of our IT.
Thank you, Councillor Dacre. Councillor Hay.
Thanks very much. So I think the report alludes to working with project managers to understand risks and to control risks on some of the large projects. Do we do post-implementation reviews when projects are completed, just to learn lessons and the like?
We do, yes. We have a lessons learned for following on from each of the projects, and this is then incorporated into any future work and training that is carried out with the project teams to make sure that they're aware of anything that's occurred in previous big major contracts. So yes, we do take that into account to try and ensure that we don't repeat anything that we've done previously.
Yeah, and they're like formal reports, are they, that would be written down and circulated?
They're noted down, yes.
Yeah,
as part of the work, yes.
Okay.
Councillor Scullion, you put your hand up, didn't you? And then I'll come to Councillor Lee. You're on mute, Councillor Scullion. I'll come back to you if you can unmute yourself. Councillor Lee, I'll move on to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just following on from Councillor Dacre's points about IT. We've recognised on this committee that the very great importance we need to place on IT security and taking steps against I don't know what they call it anymore, phishing, is it? Or anyway, intruders getting on the site and doing nasty things. And I think that we said that the exercise that we did, I think last year, where every councillor at least was received a trial app or something to go through to prove that they were giving the right answers and were aware of where the dangers of cybercrime come from. Is there any plan, Martin, that a similar exercise will be taken this coming year? I think it's good practice to do it every year, I should think.
There is, Councillor Lee, yes. I can assure you that obviously this is taken very seriously. There is going to be a further work on an e-learning, and also there will be another phishing exercise sometime in the future, but we can't say when because it would spoil the point of doing it. But there will be one to see what happens, because obviously we're quite keen. We've got all this in place, the firewalls, a vast amount of cybersecurity, and I would like to assure Councillor Dacre that we're actually working with all the directorates and all the services to, and most of them have now produced a how we recover if we haven't got any IT. So we're on with that, and when we've done that, we're going to collate the information. We're also looking at which bits of IT need to be returned immediately, because some services, ICTs, is life or death stuff, whereas others it's a little less so, and we've had to prioritise the recovery of it so that to ensure that all services get their IT back as and when they need it.
Could I have just a second question as well, please, Chair?
Certainly.
Yeah, Martin, as we all know, the Cabinet's approved some new software to replace outdated old software, which, as I understand it, has been creaking a bit, and it's progressively more difficult to maintain it to the standards we need. So ahead of the purchase and implementation of this approved new system, are there any additional risks that have been identified about keeping that system going until such time as it's replaced?
The main one is the fact that the longer we keep old systems running, the more at risk we are of an attack, because the older systems don't tend to get updated as frequently as the new ones. So we've got to be very careful that we pick up all the updates to make sure they're included, because otherwise the older systems can be at risk of being hacked. So yes, it's key that we replace systems, and obviously we assess what the risks are of keeping one running still until such time as we can replace it.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Scullion, are you able to make a comment? Do you want to? No. Do you want to put it in the chat, and I'm happy to come back to you if you want to. Yeah. Okay. Okay, members. Any further comments or questions on item 10? No. Okay. We'll note the report for now. Jane, I'll come back to you if you manage to put something in the chat. But we will move on to item number 11, which is another half-year report on the internal audit to the 30th of September 2022. And I'll hand over to Lisa. Councillor Lee, is that a legacy hand? Or do you have another question? Yeah, okay, thank you. Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair said, this is the third half-year report on the agenda tonight. Nothing much to add to that. Just by way of an update, 418 makes reference to a vacancy and recruitment of that. I can pleased to say that the 2 new auditors have started today. and they're commencing their induction, and training and development will commence with them. So now up to full staffing within the internal audit team. Happy to take any other questions on the half-year report, which just details the work the team's been working on. And you saw the audit plan at the beginning of the year, and that's the basis upon which work's being carried out in the year to date.
Thanks, Lisa, and it's great to hear that we've recruited, and hopefully we can retain them as well for a full team going forward. So well done to you for that. Martin Townsend, I'll bring you in.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, Lisa, it was just on that point actually about the recruitment. So I was just wondering, you report that the productive audit has been lower than expected or normal, I suppose, and whether with the new recruits you would be aiming to catch up for the year as a whole. So actually the amount of audit completed would be in line with the plan.
Yes, absolutely. We'll probably exceed it actually. Now we've got 2 people appointed. But yeah, that's the plan, to catch up with audits. You'll see the percentage of audit plan delivered to date, but also we've done additional work on top of that. So in terms of the audits completed, we're well within the targets for the year.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question for Lisa. We did a skills audit earlier in the year, and I was just wondering whether anything came out of that skills audit which may necessitate additional training for some of us, or in general, was it okay, and are we in good shape or not with the skills levels on this board?
Thanks for mentioning that, Councillor Lee. There was an intention to bring a report back in terms of the outcome from that. I need to catch up with Amanda Venning to discuss it. But in terms, we didn't get responses from all councillors, but the responses that we've got have indicated, yeah, high skills. There are some suggestions in there in terms of what individual members would like additional training on. Which I'll be speaking to Amanda, the Member Training and Development Officer, about actually addressing those for individual members, but then also cascading that more generally to see if other members want development in the same areas. But no significant gaps were identified from the skills audit, and members did put forward areas of expertise, which actually we might be able to use that in terms of sharing knowledge. So rather than having to go externally, it might be that we share knowledge across members. So yeah, and an update in terms of the second independent member appointment. We did go through a recruitment process for that and did want to appoint somebody, but unfortunately they decided to pull out. So we are going to go out for advert for that again, to have a second independent member. I propose that we do that in the new year, because I don't think the run up to Christmas is a good time necessarily to put an advert out. So I will be doing that early in the new year.
Thanks, Lisa. Great.
Okay.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Thanks, Chair. You know, in the pie chart in this report, which is 4.1.3, and it gives a nice indication of where, you know, where the kind of work and the amount of work that's going into each section. And I just wondered, could you say more about how that's been prioritized? Is it because that it's the level of risk involved in each one? So the, you know, assurance and risk is the bit that is the most important for the council versus commissioning partnerships. Is it based on the fact that we don't do the level of money that's involved in commissioning partnerships is a lot lower than what you would bring to the other parts? And then I've just got a second bit, which is this you've then got, this is a totally separate section, but you know, you talk about internal audit spending some time on individual kind of investigation work and the support that you're giving. I know that you probably can't tell us specifics, but could you provide just some examples so we're aware of the kind of things that are involved in those individual investigations and why that's important for audit?
Absolutely. In terms of the pie chart, as I said in the introduction, it was the work we've delivered so far is based on the audit plan that we put together at the beginning of the year, and that is risk assessed in terms of what is the highest risk. So the answer is yes, there's more time spent on the assurance element because how that risk is scored, but a different audit plan year may look different. Because in terms of like commissioning and partnerships, that's just part of the audit plan. So in a future year, there might be more work carried out in that, just because some of them are, we risk assess them every 2, 3 or 4 years. So just that programme might mean that in some years we do more work on commissioning and partnerships, for example. In terms of the investigations, they are no two are ever the same. Shall I say, they're very varied, and we, as the chart shows there, we do get referrals from different sources, i.e. members of the public, or HR department, and those discrepancies or irregularities can be about somebody's members of staff's timekeeping. There was an allegation that a member of staff was working elsewhere at the same time as they were working for us. So there was an investigation carried out to establish whether that was true or not. Or an allegation about a member of staff, say, not banking monies correctly. They were believing that there wasn't records in place. So that's just 2 examples of some of the investigations we've done this year. If members do want more information on that, you're right, I can't really talk about the detail, but if you want, that information is available. But if you wanted more information in a half-year report to categorise the types of investigations, I can do that for future reports.
Thanks, Lisa. Councillor Hay.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Yes, I was just going to ask about sort of approach to the audits. Before the audit actually starts, do you ask management if they think there's any control failures?
We don't ask them whether there's any control failures. Well, we do and we don't, I suppose. When we're putting the audit plan together, we have our wish list of what we think we need to go and audit, and we've often audited in that area before, so we do know the types of controls that are there. And we ask the senior management team whether there's anything in addition, so that we do that as part of the planning process. And then when an audit commences, one of the first things we would ask somebody is, have you got any concerns in this area? Yeah. So yes, we do, but sort of turn it around the other way. What are your concerns?
What are your concerns? That's right. Yeah. Yes, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. And yes, I've just seen it elsewhere, and operating from the other side, it tends to keep you on your mettle, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just have a question, Lisa, just on your capacity and your renewed capacity. I was in a strategy and performance scrutiny last week or the week before, and business plans came up as one of the items on the agenda. And would your team, well, the commercial team seemed to be extremely undercapacitated. In fact, it was just one guy actually now. Yeah. Is that something that you can provide support for, or would it not really cross over too much into audit?
No, we already are working with the commercialisation team. Any audit that we do, we ask about business plans, so we get some recommendations in there, but then we're also working with the commercialisation team on the visioning days. We provide support there. We're also part of, there's a commercial governance group and an extended governance group, which Audit are part of that as well. So we are helping, and I did speak with Isabel last week, and we're planning to do more work with that team.
Fab. Okay, thank you very much. Any further comments, members? No? Okay. So the report is to highlight the work undertaken by Lisa's team, internal audit, in the period April to September this year. We're recommended to review and approve the report and to confirm that the work carried out by internal audit is regarded as effective and as such contributes towards meeting the accounts audit regulations 2015 and PSI AS, which I did have to Google, which is Public Sector Internal Audit Standards. So can I have a show of hands if we're happy to approve the report? That's carried. Thank you very much, members. Okay, item number 12, which is the internal audit tracking report. Lisa, back over to you.
Thanks, Chair. This is the usual report that comes to each meeting, which sets out the audits we've carried out to date and shows the conclusion, the audit opinion that we've given, and the progress made in implementing recommendations. I've already said earlier in the agenda about the fact that internal audit are now tracking all recommendations until implementation date, and that actions and risks are there for management to manage until those recommendations are implemented. Looking at the detail on the tracking report, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody's got. Members usually use this tracking report to identify one or two reports that want to be presented as a member selected reports moving forward. The one that stands out to me is the adult care charges, in that it was limited, and it's again limited at the time of the follow-up audit, but happy to take any other suggestions and comments from members.
Thanks, Lisa. Councillor Baker.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we should look at that if it's got a follow-up report and it's still got some kind of red things outlined, especially given how important adult social care is as a service and what a large kind of service it is. You know, people really makes a big difference to people, those care charges. So we absolutely need to be getting stuff right there.
I agree, Councillor Baker. Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just looking at that, I see that we've got adult care changes, and it's marked as limited. And I think that this was the question I asked earlier on. Is this anything to do with the changes in the systems that will be involved for in that part of the council? And what was limited about it, if you're able to say?
Councillor Lee, it's not to do with the system, it's to do with the way this used to be CCG recharges. Lachlan, I don't know if you want to come in and add any more, but it's not linked to the system, it's just linked to the processes that we've got in place to recover that money, and to the agreements that are in place to agree the share that we recharge. Is that correct, Lachlan?
I think it's just a case really of the whole process being inadequate, from roles and responsibilities down to the individual systems for actually recharging, care users, to maximise the income that the council receives. So a wide range really of issues on that report. But I think it would be a good one for members.
What I was thinking about is the most important, well, they're all important, but the biggest areas of council spend are the areas where potential for things going wrong can be felt very strongly. And so I was thinking that I know that Cabinet recently approved commissioning services for the year ahead. And I think adults and children's expenditure is something like 80 million. It's a very large amount of money. So just to check, Lisa, as part of the normal audit processes in those areas of very large expenditure, do we take regular samples? Do we just drill into it, randomized sort of samples like audits like you guys do, to make sure that everything, as far as we know, both with planned activities and random, pick one at random and test it through to see that everything all right? Are those things being done for the major expenditure areas as a matter of course?
Yes, confirm they are. They're part of our, what we call our audit universe. So yeah, all those things are part of that, and they're subject to regular every 2, 3 or 4 years, and sometimes annually, depending on what area it is and the significant risk.
Thank you.
Councillor Dacre.
Thank you, Chair. You haven't actually left us much really on I'm pleased to say, on this report that actually seems to need following up. And of the other 2 that were amber, the learning disability review, which is due for looking at again by you, it's in December, there's only 1 left. So I suppose we could look at that one. But the public health budget, is it appropriate to look at that in January, because your review of it isn't due till March, so we'd be sort of jumping the gun?
Yeah. The purpose of receiving the member selected reports is not just where there's some concerns or there's concerns about recommendations not being implemented. It's also a check on internal audit, so that members can actually have a look at the type of audits internal audit are doing, whether we're picking up the right issues, whether we're reporting on it appropriately. So it's not just about looking at the ones where there are issues, it's about reviewing internal audit as well. So sometimes members have selected those that don't have a limited opinion and a substantial opinion, but is perhaps something that members haven't seen a report on for a while. So looking at something different, or looking at getting some assurance about things that are in place.
Well, I would certainly have thought that the public health budget then was one that's very interesting to look at, because it's something that used to be central government that's come to us. And it's a very contested area because of the fact that the money's reduced since we first started getting it. So I think that would be an interesting area.
Thank you, Councillor Dacre. Do you mean for the next February meeting?
Is it February, not January? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Along with the adult the charges.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Adult care charges.
Does anybody have any other suggestions, or are we happy with those 2 as coming forward in the next meeting? Can I have a show of hands if you're happy with those 2? So that's adult care charges and public health. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, members. Okay, so we have well, just before we move on to the last item, which is item number 13, we will move item number 6, which we didn't go through earlier. Ian Hughes hasn't been able to join us this evening, so we'll move that to next meeting, if that's okay, Lisa, if you can make a note of that, or Janet, if we can put that onto the agenda for February. Thank you. So item number 13, which is the Audit Committee Work Programme, which is in the appendix, and it covers the next 12 months. Has anybody got any comments on that, or we're happy with the way, the direction of travel and the items that are being suggested? It's obviously going to be kept under continual review, but we're generally happy with the items on there. Lots of nodding heads. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Lisa, yes.
Perhaps I could suggest that once the terms of reference come to the next meeting, that members might want to look at the terms of reference and consider the work programme to ensure that members are happy that what we've got on the terms of reference as an audit committee, they are appearing as reports on the work programme moving forwards.
Yeah, that's a good idea
for the next meeting.
Fab. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, members, I think that is record time. So thank you so much for your contributions and your attendance. And that is the last item. I will close the meeting. And thank you very much. And Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you in February, which sounds weird to say, but Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, Chair. Merry Christmas.
Take care.